Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
Today we're going to be talking about crime movies.
Yeah, boy.
You brought in a list, haven't you?
I've brought in a small list, yes. Granted, I've only written 2 of them because I remember the others quite well.
Okay, so what's the first one you want to talk to?
First one I want to talk about is a film that I've actually been wanting to watch for a while, and that is the biopic from probably about 2 decades ago on Charles Bronson, formerly known as Michael Peterson, who was England's most dangerous prisoner. And at the time of release of the film had been incarcerated for 34 years, 30 of which had been spent in solitary confinement.
Wow, yes.
Now, Michael Peterson only took the name Charles Bronson when he was a illegal bare-knuckle fighter. And this film is kind of the highlights of Bronson's life. His time in prison, his time out of prison, how he got back in prison, and how he kind of really hated being in the mental ward because they thought he was just crazy, and how the Queen defined him as England's most expensive prisoner because he treated going to prison like being in a hotel. Each one was different.
Of course, this film stars
Tom Hardy as the titular Charles Bronson.
This was big. It came out in 2008, so
Yes.
not quite 2 decades ago. But I remember, obviously, he got cast
19.
as Bane in the Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises. And that was like, a massive transformation he underwent, because he's huge in this.
Yes.
Absolutely massive. He's actually, I think, wearing Charles Bronson's real moustache. Like, Bronson actually shaved it off and gave it to him to wear as an appliance.
Well, that I did not know.
Yeah.
Didn't see anything written about that. But most of the film is treated like with him narrating.
Yeah.
And doing like this one-man show in front of an audience.
It's really directed really interestingly. I mean, it's directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who's a director he's done the movie Drive.
Ryan Gosling.
Drive with Ryan Gosling, Only God Forgives, Valhalla Rising. Yeah, he wanted to do a Batgirl movie for years. Which, I mean, the way that this film is directed, it's really unique, really interesting, like how you have Bronson actually there talking directly to you and sort of introducing each part, and it's just so nasty in places.
It's so, it's surrealist in places.
I remember the psych ward scene especially, with the Pet Shop Boys song playing during the dance, and he's like trying to get at and kill this prisoner who did something really horrific.
Yes.
And he wants to kill this guy. And he's doped up and he's drugged and he's just shambling towards, and he's just screams in agony because he can't do anything. Haunting.
Yeah, because they found it better to medically sedate him than to actually deal with him as a ball of rage.
Of which there's a lot of, like, I remember the scene where he forces the prison guard to lube him up.
Yes,
he strips down
when he takes the librarian hostage.
Yeah. Oh, no, that was later on.
Yeah. No.
Or was it the art teacher at the end?
No, the art teacher was later on. It was the prison guard who was... prison librarian who was going around with the book cart.
Right, yeah.
And he forced him to lube up.
So,
This was one of the many different people that Bronson had actually taken hostage, and he realized he could make even more crazier demands as he went on throughout his prison terms.
Yeah, he's not a nice bloke.
No.
But it's amusing, and obviously Tom Hardy playing him, it's amusing as well.
Bronson actually had seen the film. There were actually terms and conditions for Bronson seeing the film. He said, I'll only see it if my mum sees it and if she likes it. To which he then turned around and said, yeah, it's a good film. I've got a few issues, one with my dad and how you portrayed my Uncle Jack, but thumbs up. I'd rather be done right by Britain's greatest actor than be done wrong.
It's a great performance, and it's very dark in places.
It is, and you feel the man staring into your soul when it's not the stage show.
Yeah,
My name's Charles Bronson.
It is quite comedic, though.
It is.
Yeah. So it's quite a dark black comedy, if you fancy that kind of thing.
Definitely a dark comedy, and a full recommendation.
Is it on any services you know of?
It is on Stan.
Nice.
I've been trying to find this on DVD for years.
Yeah.
And then finally I found it on Stan, and I went, hallelujah.
It's one of those films, considering the director, considering the actor, you think would be a lot more readily available than it is.
Right?
But it's not. Yeah, he's done a lot of interesting films, though. I mean, imagine if you had like Mads Mikkelsen, who was in Valhalla Rising, along with Ryan Gosling, who was in Drive and Only God Forgives, and chucked them all into the film with Tom Hardy, and just see what comes from that. And just the style, that would be something. But yes, what else you got for us?
Probably my favourite British crime comedy, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yes.
I originally saw this back in 2011 with my old man.
Yeah.
He insisted on me watching this.
I think that's when I saw it as well. Not with you or your old man, of course.
No. I mean, what you're doing myself, in Victoria is up to you. But
yeah, so this is Guy Ritchie's first film.
Yes.
And you can see shades of his later works in this.
It's bloody biblical is what it is. It's
sparing use of slow-mo, which is his staple, especially with the Sherlock Holmes movies. But yeah, colourful cast of characters.
Very colourful cast of characters. Young Jason Statham, Vinnie Jones.
Now, remind me, it's been a few years since I've seen this. It revolves around a bank robbery as well as stolen antique weapons, doesn't it?
No bank robbery.
No robbery.
So the main course of it is there's the big crime boss of the area by the name of Hatchet Harry. He runs a sex shop. And, well, he's called Hatchet Harry because he once bludgeoned a man to death with a big fat rubber Bleep that as you will.
Yep. Rooster,
yeah.
A giant rubber rooster.
Yes. And he hires his second in command to find two fellas to steal two antique flintlock muskets. Well, two muskets. But, they're shotguns. They just call them muskets because they're long.
Yeah.
And this fella hires two northerners, and there's a bit of a blows between how the north hates the south and the south hates the north. It actually stirred my blood up a little bit, so I think that might be my grandfather, either spirit going bloody southerners. The main cast, they have there's Soap, who's the cook, Grocer, played by Jason Statham, Tom, Eddie. That was it, Eddie. So these four are a quartet of friends. And Eddie is really good at playing cards. So he and the boys get together and they pitch in £25,000 each to enter into a high-stakes poker game against Hatchet Harry, knowing that Ed is really good at playing poker. Now, of course, Harry finds this out and goes, well, how am I going to beat this kid who's really good at poker? Oh, no, I'll cheat. So he hides a hidden surveillance camera somewhere nearby. He has this little radio device strapped to his leg that will tap the numbers on the card that Ed's holding. And Ed ends up owing him about 500,000 quid.
It's quite a difference there between his two numbers.
Yeah, quite a significant amount. And he gives them a week. So the boys spend most of their time going nuts, and then they realize, hang on, we could rob our neighbours who are going to rob these couple of public school boys or private school boys that are growing really good marijuana. And we'll get our wholesaling criminal friend, Nick the Greek, to sell it off to this other guy. Turns out the ganja that they're selling and stealing is actually from the guy that they're going to sell it to.
Yeah. The thing with Guy Ritchie films is there's a complicated web of characters and plot twists and all that. So I have seen Lock, Stock, but it's just I'm struggling to remember the details. But it's obviously, it was obviously huge because it kind of led to his career taking off, and it led to Snatch, which is my favourite, which is kind of like Lock, Stock refined. Obviously, you've got some big name stars like Benicio del Toro and Brad Pitt.
More about boxing and diamonds.
And dogs.
Yes.
You like dogs.
Pig farmers.
Yeah, yes. I Snatch, I mean, I've seen it so many times, but just the characters, just all these great characters, and I think that's really the staple of when Guy Ritchie is at his best.
Absolutely.
I do want to talk very quickly about his more recent effort, which is The Gentleman.
The Gentleman with
Matthew McConaughey, Michelle Dockery, Charlie Hunnam, who was obviously in the King Arthur movie that he did that sort of fizzled out, and Henry Golding, who we spoke about a few weeks ago, Snake Eyes. This is a tale that's sort of set up by not Colin Firth. Hugh Grant is telling a tale to Charlie Hunnam's character, and it's sort of like a, let me tell you this tale, and it's like twists and turns, and things happen before they do, and it's a jumbled mess, and it's an exercise trying to keep up with, but it's really good. And there's a moment of darkness in it, which is kind of like, whoa, we went there, did we? Involving Henry Golding and Michelle Dockery's character. Michelle Dockery being from Downton Abbey.
Yes.
So she's quite different here. She's got a voice like this, don't she? It's quite different
from...
from...
a bit of a proper chav going on.
Quite different from Lady Mary Crawley, if I do say so myself. It's just great to see that he can still do that. It all started back with Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
It's good that he doesn't forget his roots.
Danny John Jules was in that, best known as the cat from Red Dwarf.
Yes, he was in Lock, Stock. He was a barkeeper.
He showed up in a few things. He was in Blade 2, remember?
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, it's Guy Ritchie done.
Guy Ritchie. Woo.
What else have you got for us?
Guns Akimbo, released 2 years ago, starring Daniel Radcliffe and Samara Weaving.
Yeah, so if you've been on the internet, you've probably seen the images of Daniel Radcliffe. He's in public and he's wearing animal slippers, he's got a dressing gown, he's got guns in his hands.
He's a better than Wands, Ron!
Yeah, that was memes for years.
Yes!
And this is what this is from.
And this is actually that's one of the descriptions of it. Find out the source of the meme behind Daniel Radcliffe and Two Pistols.
Took a long time for this film to come to fruition then.
It did.
Especially considering like Samara Weaving's and that, and she sort of became a bigger actress since they filmed this then.
She's been in a few more things. She was Scarlet in
G.I. Joe.
Snake Eyes.
Yep.
I first had seen her in Ash vs. the Evil Dead as an Australian backpacker.
She was in that, was she? Yeah.
Yeah.
I first saw her in Picnic at Hanging Rock with Natalie Dormer.
Oh.
Yeah, they did that a few years ago, which was... I never got back to it, but... Yeah, she's really become like a horror sort of gore splatter sort of queen in recent years.
The film focuses itself on a familiar concept, and protagonist, bored with life, something exciting is happening in the background, with the familiar concept of an underground media group known as Schism. They hold death matches.
Yeah, which are hosted online and people pay big bucks to watch them. And yeah, it's this sort of demented future where that's just become the norm, and he accidentally annoys the moderator of this thing, and
they break into his house and bolt pistols into his hands
and give him the instruction, you're now in a death match with the highest ranking player, which is Nix, played by Samara Weaving, and he's just completely out of his depth.
He's got 24 hours to kill her or they'll kill him. He then tries to run after the police. Of course, he's got the guns bolted to his hands, so they think that he's attacking them.
Yeah.
And it just hijinks ensues from there.
What did you think?
For a film filmed in New Zealand, Kiwiland, this is amazing. You've got a British actor putting on an American accent. Samara Weaving is trying to hide all traces of her Australian accent, and it does not work in parts. You can hear it come through.
Yeah.
And, she is bat crazy. I love it.
Yeah. So... You loved it. I went into this really wanting to love it, and we're going to have differing opinions here, because I did not like it as much as I hoped I would. I was just sort of... It's very style over substance.
It is.
Like, it's just
and
neon.
I enjoyed the style.
Yeah, it's neon soaked. The camera is just moving around and just doing all these twists and turns. Like, when you first see her sort of do this massacre, essentially, there's just so much neon everywhere. It's like the camera's zipping around and she's like having her face slammed into... piles of substance which she inhales, and it energizes her to keep on going. Basically, if you've seen Birds of Prey, just dial that up to 11. That's kind of...
and Wanted.
Yeah, I didn't much like Wanted, actually. I was waiting many years to see that. Yeah, and I was quite let down by that.
Yeah,
it's kind of a similar premise, but I think one thing that makes Daniel Radcliffe more likable in this compared to James McAvoy in that is he's more humble.
He is, and he's definitely a unwilling protagonist.
Yeah. That's actually what annoyed me in Wanted, was that he was like screaming for the first part of that film before he sort of gets the hang of what's going on. With this film, though, with Guns Akimbo, it kind of felt like it wanted to have its cake and eat it too. Like, it wanted to sort of be wild and violent and like, nothing matters. People are just cannon fodder. It's a video game, but live action and whatever.
And people are sadistic I want to swear there.
But then it's
And
like...
they'll just watch the show, you know?
Yeah, but then it's like, oh no, now it's a serious moment.
Yeah.
Now things matter. And it's kind of like, but you just spent the last 70 minutes like things don't matter, you know? And...
For a 98-minute film, there is a lot of ground to cover. Apparently there's a big conspiracy of schisms going global.
Yeah, who knows if that's going to lead to a sequel or not.
Yeah, who knows? I'm not sure how well it did at the theatre. I didn't look into that. But I definitely enjoyed it for the most part.
I think it's interesting because people kind of want films like this now. It's kind of what people thought Deadpool and Birds of Prey were going to be.
Yeah.
And it's weird to compare Samara Weaving's performance to Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, because I think this would have been filmed quite a bit before then.
Yes.
But there's a scene where Harley herself is energized by a certain substance which she similarly inhales and then goes nuts.
Yes.
In Birds of Prey. But this is... Yeah, it is style over substance, and I guess a lot of people like it, but I was sort of just let down.
I mean, the one character I enjoyed the most was definitely the homeless fella.
I believe that actor was in Hunt for the Wilder People as well. He played the bush guy. I think it's him. I'm not too sure. Don't hold me to it. I also the villain in this.
Richter.
Yeah, Ned Dennehy. He's an Irish actor. He plays the villain in this. Richter. He just reminded me of a Mad Max villain.
Yes.
I'd love to see him play a Mad Max villain, actually.
Bring him on.
Yeah, but he's best known for playing Ebenezer Scrooge in the series Dickensian. He's also in an Australian UK series called Glitch, which I've never seen. But yeah, he was great in this.
He was.
Yeah.
They were all tons of fun, but there definitely were moments where it did seem to be following the trend of the time.
Which is that?
Which was what you were saying, you know, Deadpool and Birds of Prey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's sort of a precursor to all that, but I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
Fun.
Fun, weird, you know. Lots, not one to watch with Grandma.
No.
Unless Grandma fancies it, you know.
Hey, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the scene that sold Daniel Radcliffe on this film was the scene where he needs to go to the toilet with the guns bolted to his hand.
That's pretty early on in the film, actually.
Yeah. So, if you want to see him try to struggle doing that, you know.
Go for it.
Yeah. What else have you got for us?
A horror comedy. Willys Wonderland flew in under my radar. It's a Nick Cage film, and he's been flying under the radar a lot lately, actually.
Yeah, he's still going.
Mandy, Mum and Dad.
That's right.
Yeah, he's really just flown under the radar. So, this film, I believe, was incepted around the time that the Banana Splits horror film was released. Well,
Yeah.
Originally it was a Five Nights at Freddy's film.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, bit of context to our listeners here. Five Nights at Freddy's is a video game series where you play as the security guard in like a camera room inside this pizzeria, which is, you know, populated by animatronic, you know,
Animals,
mascots.
much like the Chuck E. Cheese franchise in America.
When I found out that was real, I was like, what the hell is this? What are you Americans doing to yourselves? That's horrifying. So yeah, he's in this place, and it's a perfect setup for a horror film or a horror game as these animatronics come alive and try to kill him. So that's obviously massively popular, like countless games, countless novels and spin-offs, and like
Talk of a movie and TV series.
yeah, movie's been in the works for like so many years.
And then the movie turned into the Banana Splits one.
Well, I feel like the Banana Splits movie was inspired by the concept because the Banana Splits, listeners might know, came out around the same time. I think it was the same production company as like H.R. Puffin stuff.
Yeah, it was Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah, la 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 la. And that was turned into a brutal horror movie.
Yes.
When I saw that trailer, I'm like, this has to be a parody, right? But no, it's earnest. And Willys Wonderland is very much in the similar vein of all that.
Yes. So we have Nick Cage as the janitor. He doesn't speak for the entire film.
Really?
Save for sipping on what I can assume to be is cocaine-infused soft drink that he has to take every hour or so.
Wow, okay.
Like, he literally stops the film, crack, glug, 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 glug.
That's wild. I guess that would have been a challenge for him then if he still sort of wants that challenge, you know, do this entire film where you don't talk.
And about 70% of it is him cleaning up this old, well, Chuck E. Cheese knockoff called Willys Wonderland, starring Willy the Weasel, Ozzy the Ostrich, Siren Sarah, which is like this pixie thing, Nighty Night, yes, stupid, I know, Artie the Alligator, Gus the Gorilla, Tito the Turtle, which is a Mexican turtle, and Cammy Chameleon.
Right.
So, Willys Wonderland was incepted by this serial killer, and then he invited all his friends around to work as staff. And, well, they would use it to sort of get their jollies on and get to killing. Particularly killing those who would be invited to the super special fun room.
So is this like masquerading as like a legitimate business, or is it like a sort of like H.H. Hughes, like murder hotel kind of thing, but it's like a murder restaurant, or is it just like a, no, we'll chuck people in here and have fun?
Yeah. It's
right.
A bit of all three.
Gosh.
But once the bodies start piling up, the police finally do come knocking, and they find out that the manager and creator of Willys Wonderland has gone and done the old-fashioned satanic ritual suicide with his friends.
Very Chucky. Yeah.
And they've transferred their spirits into the animatronics.
Right.
Then the restaurant is bought up by a local man by the name of Tex Meccano, and he reopens the place, and then it turns out that the animatronics are moving on their own and saying things that they're not programmed to say. In the case of Siren Sarah, she asks a little boy if they want to as he goes to grope her.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And eventually the local law enforcement, Tex, and the, believe it or not, the tow guy make a deal with Willy and the possessed animatronics, will lure in mooks, and you can feed on them so long as you leave the town alone, because the animatronics were actually going out in town and killing people.
Right.
Ice creamery, even the school.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, this is interesting because you've gone and got this thing which is very similar conceptually to Five Nights at Freddy's, and they're taking their sweet time doing anything with that property.
Yes, they are.
And especially now, since the guy behind that sort of outed himself as a bit of old Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kept that secret for a while, didn't he? Yeah, so I think by the time they eventually do get around to it, you're going to have films like this and Banana Splits, which have kind of already done the deed.
Well, here's the thing, though. This does have a band of faceless teens. Yes, I know they have names, but you are only here to die. I don't care about your name. You're only here to die. Led by a girl named Liv, played by Emily Tosta, who I'd previously seen in my brief love affair with the Mayans, MD, and Sons of Anarchy.
Ah, yes.
She plays the estranged daughter of one of the Mayans bikers. And she's a survivor of the Willys massacres. And
I think I saw this in the trailer, yeah.
Yeah, she's got a hard-on for burning the place down. So Nick Cage rocks up into town, and his tires are blown because of a road trap set up by the police as a inevitable bait to get, people to stay over. So the deal is, he's a drifter. He can't pay for it because there's apparently no internet in this town, so he can't use the ATM. Tex offers, I will pay for your car to be fixed if you can clean up Willys Wonderland by the time I go to open the doors at 8 a.m. tomorrow, the next day. What do you say? Intense staring. Most of this Nick Cage interaction is just him staring at things intensely, or, just cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
And we get 20 minutes in and we have our first animatronic attack with Ozzy Ostrich, and it does not go well for Ozzy. He's then later in a garbage bag. Next one off the bat is Gus the Gorilla. He's murdered in the bathroom after trying to off-cage in the bathroom that he just cleaned. And eventually the kids get in there, and, the team, and, well, the classic Scooby-Doo thing of, let's split up and look for clues, gang.
Oh, dear.
Ensues, and...
That never goes well.
No. So, the teams are made up of this. We have Liv, the leader, the boy who wants to bone her, and Heroes worships her, the nerdy black kid, the tough black kid, the cool white guy, and the I'm just here to look pretty girl who happens to be dating the black tough kid. Props to this film for not killing a black guy first.
Right.
First kill of the film goes to a white lady.
Oh, man.
There's a horror subversion for you.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Is this available on anything, though?
this is available on Stan and on DVD.
Right.
I would recommend watching it first on Stan or online before getting the DVD, because this is definitely one of those films where it will leave you scratching your head a bit, because it is a bit of a dragger. It does drag its feet a bit.
It's only 90 minutes long.
It's only 90 minutes long, and it's very, it takes its time, because it knows what you're here for, but it's not going to give it to you.
Right.
Completely. I mean, it does get rid of all the animatronics by the end of the film.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. I mean, but it's how it does that gets you interested, because it knows you're here for the kills. And we have the group of faceless teens. Again, I know they have names. I don't care. They're just here to die.
Yeah. More a horror than a crime.
Yeah, more horror than a crime. And just the length it goes to show that these animatronics are not quite right.
Yeah.
Go and watch it. I don't want to spoil too much more, because I've already said way too much.
Yeah. YouTube version. That's the glory of that.
YouTube version ahoy.
But anyway, that wraps up our talk today of horror. Well, not so much horror. Crime films initially, with a bit of horror thrown in for good luck, for good measure. Anyway, I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
I'll see you next time.